Relax, the keyboard is off, the press box is closed, and the mic is just getting warmed up as the Guardian of the Blue Paint turned writer is about to enlighten us. The show where the writer is fresh off the presses and the ink is not dry. For this week's show, Flyers Draft Reaction Show. Welcome to the Hockey Writers Inc. Join Lance and Steele as we bring you all the latest on the Flyers.
Hi guys, welcome back to another edition of the Hockey Writers Inc. As always, I'm your host, Lance Green.
And of course, sitting along, riding shotgun, is your co-host, Steele Flyers. And Lance, my friend, how you doing?
I am okay. How about yourself?
Oh man, I'll tell you what, I'm in a draft kind of mood. What do you think?
Sure. Yeah, I think that I've been in a draft mood all season with the way the Flyers played. So
and so. Yesterday we did a quick little show to put our reaction out there to the Flyers picking 5th overall, getting Cutter Gautier for their 5th overall pick yesterday. And today, as promised, we're back to give you the rest of the draft picks and our reactions to what the Philadelphia Flyers did for this year's draft in 2022 held in Montreal. So we both were cheering and grateful for the Flyers and picking Gautier, right? That was Lance. We were talking about him back in March. He was on our radar. He wasn't on anybody else's radar. And lo and behold, what do you know? Flyers went out and grabbed him. And I'll tell you what, we're both excited. And we both think that he's going to be a really good addition to this edition. Okay. And also, you are correct. He is going to Boston College.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this next player that they picked in the 3rd round, because Philadelphia did not have a 2nd-round draft pick this year.
Right.
Okay. So in the 3rd round, the Philadelphia Flyers selected Devin Kaplan. And Lance, we talked about this young man before too, haven't we?
I think so. We mentioned him in passing. Definitely. This whole Flyers draft today seemed to fit a particular mold, and
that's a good way to put that.
Yeah, and follows a recent article that I did and saying that the Flyers need to go back to what they know and entrust in the power forward position. They were far too easy to push around this past season. They were far too easy to win puck battles from and everything like that. So and getting way too small, as we said on multiple occasions. So they went out and got Cutter, which is a big body power forward, high scoring, can skate, and they did the same thing today with their 3rd round selection of Devin Kaplan, who is a right winger. He's 6'3", 198 pounds. Amazing. I love it. I love it. Played for the U.S. national team this year with Cutter at times, and played in 53 games where he scored 13 goals, 25 assists for 38 points, and was a plus 43 when they played the United States Development Program schedule. And then, of course, they play the USHL schedule where they play, all the teams in the United States Hockey League. And he played in 22 games there where he scored 8 goals, 10 assists for 18 points and was a plus 18. So, again, just like Gautier, big-bodied winger, plays a 200-foot game, plus player.
Good production.
Good production there, knows Cutter, played with him on the same team. So that chemistry that we talked before in my mock draft of some players that I wanted to see drafted that played with some other prospects that the Flyers already have in their system. The Flyers went out there and did that, with back-to-back picks here in the 1st and 3rd rounds.
You know what else, though, Lance? They kind of followed this theme throughout the entire draft, not just the power forward theme, but the United States Hockey League theme as well. We're going to get into a couple more,
they definitely selected some guys. Yeah. And Devin is scheduled to go to Boston University, so another Beanpot school, big school, a lot of good reputation there, and he's a Bridgewater, New Jersey native, so hometown boy in Kaplan, which is nice. Just a really good kid, a really good pickup in my mind. Definitely a guy that was looked past by a lot of people, given that he just, has so much depth on that United States team. And, the Flyers picked him up in the 3rd round and right about where he was supposed to go in most mock draft. So really, really happy with this pick for sure.
Yeah, he did seem to slot in like right there in that 3rd, like real early 3rd, real late 2nd type of, you know what I mean? And so if we couldn't get a 2nd round pick, I would be just as happy to call him a 2nd round pick if we could, even though, he was a 3rd rounder, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. So, okay. So with that being said, then Philadelphia, due to some trades that took place today here for the team, Marin Voorhees in Philadelphia, and let's see, quite a few draft picks went to a certain Carolina Hurricanes.
They did.
And a certain player came back from the Hurricanes.
Yes, sir.
And that was
the 4th pick from this year went to the Carolina Hurricanes, and that player that they got back was Tony DeAngelo, a 26-year-old right-hand shot defenseman, 5'11", 180 pounds, New Jersey native. Coming back to the East Coast, where he belongs, more up, at Carolina's East Coast as well, but definitely more where he's from. And they were able to re-sign him for 2 years at $10 million, a $5 million AAV, contract. Cost him a lot, though.
Yeah, it cost him a fourth round pick in this year's draft, right? Then we got a second round pick
and a 3rd,
for the next 2 years. Right. So and then we also got a 7th round pick in return.
We got back a 7th,
Right.
So we gave up a 4th this year, I believe a 2nd next year, and a 3rd the following year.
Yep.
Or vice versa, whatever the case may be with that. But I think that while it was a lot to acquire Tony, I think it was needed, and a lot of people will disagree with this or agree with it. But we all know the Flyers struggled on the power play. Tony is a great power play specialist. We all know they struggled given Ryan Ellis's injuries, and that is the main reason why I think the team went out there and made this deal. They had to, in a sense, because in my mind, this deal being made and paying him this much money when they didn't have a whole lot of cap space to begin with was all the more certain and reasoning behind it to say that Ryan Ellis is probably going to start the year at least on long-term IR.
Exactly. And it's almost the same amount of money, right? For
a little less. For
DeAngelo, it's like it's 0.5 less because Ellis is what, 5.5?
I think he's more. Actually. He's up there in the 6. Yeah.
Okay.
6 million
But
something range.
Either way you slice it, though, it's still
a good chunk of money.
A good chunk of the money that the Flyers had in cap space is not going to have to be worried about because they're going to be putting Ellis on long-term IR. And that's the other thing I think is the reason why this happened is because when Chuck and the gang came out in their press conference a couple weeks ago and they didn't have, shiny news about Ellis, it was like, well, they weren't really sure if he was going to be ready and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, well, this basically just cemented the fact that Ellis is going to be on long-term IR because his money has to clear in order for them to sign DAngelo.
And that's the thing, though. It won't clear until after the start of the season. So
right.
we may be looking at, say, Sandstrom or whatever backing up Carter Hart for at least a little bit until they can pull something else off. We'll have to see how free agency plays out and how much other assets or players they can move out to create more cap space. But let's talk real quick about what they got back in DAngelo. This season, he played in 64 games for the Hurricanes in the regular season. He had 10 goals, 41 assists for 51 points. A lot of people compared him to Ghost and saying, oh, they had the same point production. They might as well just kept Ghost. Well, here's the big difference, guys. DAngelo is a passer. He's a setup artist, which I'd rather have from a defenseman rather than a defenseman that's going to skate it in and try to get a shot and be out of position. The big difference between those two players is that Ghost is a minus player. A defenseman that is a minus player is not any good. And that gives credit to their record versus DAngelo's record with the Hurricanes this year. Okay. DAngelo was a plus 30 player in the regular season.
Boom.
That's a big difference. If you look up Ghost, I don't even know what his plus minus was this year, but it wasn't great.
Yeah, no, I think he was in the minus 23 or something.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just plays factor. Yeah, minus 23 is a minus 54 for his career. So big difference here. Throughout the playoffs, Tony also played in 14 games this year. He had 1 goal, 9 assists for 10 points. Big addition here, and a sigh of relief if you're Carter Hart for sure. Controversial guy bringing him in. I think he grew a lot in the past season. He learned, to kind of shut his mouth
But look who he learned under.
Right.
He learned under Rod Brindamore. Come on.
Yeah, but he went to Rod Brindamore's team. They believed in his hockey abilities. He showed that, and he regained his, stature and ability to play in this league when he was thought to be done.
Yeah.
If I'm the new press, head of the press for the Flyers, am I going to put him in front of a microphone? Probably not after a game, just to make sure his type things don't happen again. But I think he's grew as a player, and hopefully he's going to be an outstanding member on this defense. So
at some point, everybody gets that second chance, and life is all about second chances or third chances or fourth chances. Look, it even says to forgive your brother 7 times 70 times 700. Now, I don't know about y'all, but that's a lot of times to forgive somebody. You get what I'm saying, right?
Yep.
So everybody gets a shot. Everybody gets a shot. You know what I'm saying? And speaking of getting a shot, look, I really think this was a good move for Philadelphia. I think this was something where this has been missing from Philadelphia. Okay. So far in this draft and so far that everything that's happened in the last 2 days for Philadelphia, I've been happy with so far. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to get into the next selection in the draft. We got this great trade, and we got a good player, I think, coming in here to Philadelphia, who I think is probably going to slot in more than likely, I'm thinking, with either Provorov to pair with him to start off. Do you know what I mean? Because I think Provorov needs that calming force back there. You know what I mean? A guy that plays defense more so. You know what I'm saying? Right?
Yeah, I think so. But let me make one more point about Tony, too. In that trade, the Flyers gave up a second and a third. They gave that up where they have depth. In those years, they have extra picks in those years. So it's not like they gave up their only third round pick that year. It's not like they gave up their only second round pick. They have multiple picks in those upcoming drafts. So they're dealing, and I think they gave up one of their lowest picks in that sense, judging by the teams that they traded away their picks for.
Yeah.
So in that, let's move on.
Cool. I'm definitely excited about another USHLer that was selected by the Philadelphia Flyers in that of the 5th round, 133rd overall pick, in Alex Bump. Another left wing, big bodied United States Hockey League player, man.
So yeah, the Flyers went out and took a chance and on a lot of these players that they drafted after the second or third, or the 3rd round pick. So we look at Alex Bump, and who is he? He's a left winger. He's 6 foot tall. He's 194 pounds. Most of the season he spent in high school league in Minnesota. All right, and in that Minnesota high school league, he played in 31 games where he scored 48 goals, 35 assists for 83 points. If you do the math there, that's 2.67 points per game, and that's a 1.54 goals per game average in the high school leagues in Minnesota. He wasn't playing a bunch of chumps. He was playing the best of the best of Minnesota State has to offer. They played in the outdoor games, where Minnesota played as well. The Wild played in that stadium. They played in some big games. And then after that, he went to the Omaha Lancers of the USHL, where he played 27 games this year, scoring 11 goals, 6 assists for 17 points. All right. So obviously not as much production as he did in high school leagues, but, that was a big jump that he made midseason, and he didn't do half bad for sure.
I mean, for playing in a short amount of games.
Right.
And then basically now playing
new
up against
teammates
guys now
and
more
everything.
His size and his age and everything, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So I look forward to some good things from him. I mean, he wasn't really on our radar per se, you know what I mean? But look, we have had the distinct honor and privilege of meeting 2 great players from the United States Hockey League this past season. And just based off of those 2 gentlemen, you have to look at what the United States Hockey League has been doing with their program in the last 10 years. And my gosh, you're getting all of these great players now, 1st round draft picks. I mean, come on, coming out of the United States Hockey League. So Alex is another one of those guys who, you know what I mean, is probably going to end up being, a really good player for the Flyers.
Well, I think it'll take some time, and he's scheduled he's slotted to go to University of Vermont next season, I do believe. And, I think you're going to see good things from him there. He's got a good hard shot.
Yeah.
He can skate up and down the ice.
Yeah, he's got good skating. He's good skating. Everything that I've seen about him is about his good skating.
Yeah, I really like him. I didn't know a whole lot about him. He wasn't on my radar.
Right.
But after they selected him, I did some research, and I see a lot of good things. I see a lot of good things, and that is what you want to do. In the 5th, 6th, 7th round, you're going to take a chance on some of these guys that have a lot of upside. And that is just what Alex has. He has a lot of upside. He's got some size to him already, like every player that Philly drafted this year, which I really like. They've went to grab some big-bodied power forwards, and I couldn't be happier with some of their selections this year for sure.
Speaking of which, now he's not a power forward, but we got us a legit defenseman in Hunter McDonald in the 6th round with the 165th overall pick.
Right.
And he played with the Chicago Steel and another United States Hockey League player at 6'3", 207 pounds. Every single player that the Flyers have drafted this year already has the NHL body, right? And too many of the guys that were drafted in this year's draft, I heard the pundits and the experts saying, he needs to put on 10 or 15 pounds. He's still, he needs to put on 10 or 15. He needs, all these great guys are selected, and that's great. but they need that time to, drink their milk and eat their chicken so they can, pack on the weight and get to their, true size. Most of all these guys in Philadelphia picked so far are already ready. Oh, they at 6'3", 207 pounds. All right. Can he play now?
Right. I seen where Hunter was. Some places had him as 6'3". Some people already have him as 6'4". So that's great. Hunter is 6'3", 6'4". That's debatable right now. 207 pounds. He's a left-hand shot player. 20 years old though. 20 years old, still playing in the USHL. This is where I had an older player, an overager, playing and being selected. So, a defenseman at that. But we'll have to see how Hunter turns out. There's not a whole lot of pressure on him right now. The team has a lot of defensemen in the system. So this is a good spot in the 6th round to take one. And, for him to be able to take his time and develop even further. Chicago Steel, which he played for half the season for, they're a stellar program who just keep putting out great NHL players. So, if he's coming from that program, then good on him. And, we'll have to see what he does. Who knows?
Exactly. But either way, though, the fact that they're getting these guys that have these NHL bodies already, you know what I mean? So now you don't have to worry about, well, okay, when we drafted Zade Wisdom, and then when we drafted Tyson Forrester, right now Tyson Forrester has already got the size build, and everything, you know what I mean? But he just needed the time to season, right? But a lot of guys we sent through our programs are of the smaller nature, are of those guys that need that, year or two of development to put on that extra 10 or 15 pounds and 2 or 3 inches or whatever they need in order to get that NHL body. You know what I'm saying? So, right. I'm really excited about this pick here. It's another United States-born player that's coming to the Philadelphia Flyers, and that to me just speaks volumes of the United States Hockey League and what they're doing and how they're pumping out these players. I'm impressed. Philadelphia has 2 more picks, 2 7th-round picks. Santeri Sulku is a left winger, and he's from Helsinki, Finland. He's 6'4", 194 pounds. And then Alex Gendron is another center right winger. He's 5'10" and 174 pounds out of Canada, Quebec there. And both of these guys are left-hand shots, and they're both forwards. So following still in that power forward, you know what I mean, mold. You know, these are the 7th-round draft picks. We'll see how these guys pan out. You know what I mean?
Yep, they got some time there. Centieri played over in Finland, U20 league, almost a point per game player over there. So, good on him for that. He's a plus player at plus 11 this year. Alexis played in the queue. So a lot of people question, the queue, and it's not as strong as it once was. But he did have 30 goals and 46 points in 66 games played. My only knock on him is he's a minus player, but maybe you can teach him to play some defense. 30 goals is nothing to sneeze at, though. So, as a 7th-round pick, they're not going to be perfect prospects. So they're going to have some upside and some things to still work on. So, so much for that. And, he's going to have some time to build upon his services, I guess, what he can bring to the team.
So now I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
And this was something that we talked about that way back when Philadelphia was still trying to put W's in the W column. We were talking about this offseason and this draft and some of these things that needed to happen in the offseason pretty much had to be home runs from Chuck Fletcher. Okay, like the gloves are off. The margin of error is over. Okay, either you knock him out of the park, buddy, or you're out. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, step one, as our good buddy of the show said, he had a 5-point plan, and one of the points on the plan was get a good coach. Number 2 was to stay healthy. Number 3 was to, draft well, right, and do some things in free agency. Now, let's take a look at this draft. Okay, Chuck Fletcher, this is his 5th draft now in Philadelphia, right? And what would you give as a grade for Philadelphia, not on any of the trades, okay, just in the draft picks that happened yesterday and today? What would be your grade for the Philadelphia Flyers for their draft this year?
I would say B-. I think the 2 top players that we selected are going to be stellar. I think they're going to be solid players. And Gautier was a home run pick. He was my guy that we all know in my mock draft that I thought the team that should select and could most fit the team's needs now. And
sooner rather than later.
And after that, the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th guys, they're all guys that are big bodied. They don't need a whole lot physically. They're gonna continue to develop, but they're not gonna need to, put on weight and be in the weight room. They already know that process. They've already excelled in that process. So good, but still raw talent. I think that is going to need to be molded still, but I'm okay with it being that those players were drafted where they were and not higher. You know what I mean?
I get what you're saying. I'll
give them a solid B-. I think there's some other teams that definitely hit it out of the park with some of their picks. So,
right. Okay. Okay. I was probably being a little generous, and I was going to go with B+.
Okay.
Okay. And the reason why I went with the B+, and they could have gotten an A, but they didn't draft a goaltender.
Mm-hmm.
So if they would have drafted a goaltender like, Costini, then I would have given them an A. But they didn't. All right. No. And so that's okay. But I still give him a B+. And the reason why I gave him a B+ is for this reason that we've already talked about, is that they went after the big body power forward, and then they carried that all the way through the draft, where they drafted players that were all in that NHL body already. Like none of these guys needs to go hit the weight room, and none of these guys needs to worry about, making sure they're drinking their milk and eating their chicken. You know what I mean? They're all 6 foot, big body guys ready to go. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm giving them the B+.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
On the Gautier and the Kaplan. I think those are going to be, of those players that we've selected, right? And I think you're going to get surprised too. I think Alex Bump might surprise us, and McDonald might surprise us too. But those 2 guys, Kaplan and Gautier, I think are going to make the team sooner rather than later and be able to contribute sooner rather than later as well too. And I have a lot of excitement about those 2 players.
Yep, me too.
So you mentioned about some other teams that kind of hit it out of the park today. And so who gets the A's in the Lance Green book?
I think an A+ should go to the Anaheim Ducks.
Yes.
Every year they seem to knock it out of the park. And, when you look at their draft, they all had big body guys too, well over 6 foot. In the first round, they grabbed the Russian defenseman Pavel Nikichakov. They drafted their second first-round pick, Nathan Gautier, big body guy out of the Q, which I wrote about. I liked. They drafted a big body, 6'5", 224 defenseman, right-hand shot defenseman, Noah Warren, that I really liked. They were able to grab in the second round Tristan Luna, who was projected to possibly be a defenseman. projected to be possibly a first-round pick, but they were able to steal him. And then they got Ben King. Ben King is an overager that played in the WHL. He's 6'3", 205. He had 52 goals, 53 assists, and 105 points in the fourth round. So that was a big steal in the fourth round. And all those guys are big bodies, same time as the Flyers. Don't have to do anything. NHL ready bodies right out the gate, and guys that'll definitely help them in the sooner rather than later category for sure.
Yeah.
Do you want to share one of yours, or do you want me to go with another one of mine?
Okay. I'll tell you what. I was really impressed by two teams in the draft. I was really impressed with what Detroit did.
Okay.
In the draft this year. I like the fact that they went out and got Ville Husso. Okay. To come in there and be their starting goaltender. That's exactly what Yzerman needs there in Detroit. And he has over the years drafted very, very well. Okay. I also very much like what Ron Francis is doing up there in Seattle. Them guys are really picking a bunch of players up there that are going to be some gamers. You know what I mean?
They definitely Seattle definitely hit it out of the park early. Shane Wright falling to him was great for them. And one of my favorite players in this draft was Jágr Furcus.
Yeah.
I think he is going to be a phenomenal player in the NHL one day. A phenomenal shot, just NHL ready shot. Hands down, one of the best shots in this draft.
Exactly.
And they got him at a steal, in the beginning of the second round. So
Exactly. So those two teams, I think, did really, really well as far as being able to, trying to bolster their teams and things of that nature. Chicago didn't do too bad. Ottawa didn't do too bad. LA didn't do too bad. I mean, a lot of the teams picked players that were what they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? That's kind of seemed like that's how this draft was. There was a couple of trades, but not a whole boatload of trades. You know what I mean? And there was some guys that moved and some guys that didn't move. I was really impressed with the Buffalo picking Matthew Savoie.
Okay.
We think he's a pretty good player. I think he's going to do things in Buffalo that's going to, turn some heads.
Yeah, I can see that. One of my other teams that I really think knocked it out of the park was the Columbus Blue Jackets, and they always draft really well too.
Yeah.
They got David Juracek, maybe some injury issues that I was concerned about, but getting him at 6 was a pretty good spot. They got a great young defenseman in Denton Matachuk. He was in the WHL. He's still only 17. He had 64 points in 65 games played and was a +20. They got Luca Del Belez in the second, big scoring player there out of Mississauga. Guy I wrote about in the third, Jordan Dumas.
Yeah, that was a great selection, dude. When I saw that, I was like, man, they really did a good job. Yeah.
Good pick for him. And a guy I wrote about really, really early on in Kirill Dozachenkov, 6'6" Russian player in the fourth round. Really big body guy, 234 pounds. Woo! Just a phenomenal force out there. I mean, he just simply tosses players off of him on his way.
They bounce off of him.
Yeah, like if they come off, he just shrugs them off, much like Jágr used to do, but on a much greater scale, because this guy's 6'6" and 234. He's going to take a little bit of time to develop for sure. But interesting prospect there as well. I think Columbus really, really did well. They drafted a goalie in the 5th round in Sergei Ivanov, which was underrated goalie in my mind as well. So definitely some good picks for Columbus as well. So really, really happy with this draft for the Flyers, and some other teams did really well as well. So
Agreed. It's going to be A very interesting take to see how when some of these players start hitting the ice and we start actually seeing, the fruits of the picks here and over the next couple years. And some guys are going to be, sooner rather than later. I don't think we're going to get a player out of this draft that's going to start in. Do you think we're going to get a player that was picked in the draft is going to start this year? Do you think we're going to get that?
Yeah, I think the number 1 overall pick, Montreal, is ready to have him come over.
Slafkovsky will play. Yeah. Okay.
I think he's ready to play, and I think they made some moves there. Nimchek could probably. He's been playing pro since he was 15, so really, defenseman there. I think he's
and that Philip Messar they took too, that right winger.
Yeah. So I think Canadians are rebuilding. They know that. And, some of the guys for Chicago as well, some of the early picks there, they could play very early on too. There's still some talks about Chicago possibly trading Patrick Kane and George Taves. So, there's going to be some open spots in the lineups.
Yeah.
And they want to go young. They want to rebuild, and they want to do it right. So, and get a lot of players in there. So I don't see it as a bad thing for them. They've won their Stanley Cups, and now it's time to rebuild, and good on them.
I mean, when you look down at the list of teams that have won the Stanley Cup the most, and I can't tell you, I get tired of counting the Canadian emblem.
Yeah.
It's like, man, how many times have you guys won it? It's like over 20 times. Like,
yeah, but they haven't won in quite a while now, so.
No, that's true. They haven't won in quite a
pressure's
while.
on them because that is a, hockey loving town there.
Historic franchiser, that's for sure. So, well, there you have it, folks. There was the Hockey Writers Inc. take on the Philadelphia Flyers 2022 NHL entry draft. All the players that were selected, and then all of the trades that took place, and kind of what we thought and how we felt things went for the Flyers. I'm looking forward to this off season as far as free agencies next week. I'm excited to see how that's going to shake down because Philadelphia can't be done. They still need to. There's still work that has to be done just for this year.
Yeah, they're definitely been rumored and a lot of big names. I saw Blake Wheeler, which I hope they don't do. He's too old in my book. Solid player, big body guy again, 6'5", I think, from Winnipeg, but he's 35 plus. He's too old in my mind. Johnny Hockey's name's been rumored. I don't know how they would be able to pull that off.
Let's address that real quick, okay? Because I just want to throw this out here, okay? I've been seeing a lot of the rumors, and I've been seeing a lot of the people out there saying how they would like to see Johnny Hockey come and play for Philadelphia. Yeah. Well, let me tell you something here, guys. There's got to be so much that has to happen in order for Philadelphia to even remotely be able to consider affording Johnny Hockey's salary. Yes. Because I'm going to tell you right now, Johnny Hockey is probably going to garner at least $9 to $10.5 million a year. Now, where on this planet do you see that kind of money coming out of Philadelphia?
You definitely don't. The Flyers, before they signed DAngelo today, only had
$5 million.
$5 million-ish dollars in the bank, and
that went away quick.
That went away pretty quick for sure. So I don't know what's going to happen in that regards. What's going to happen as far as moving and shaking guys in the lineup or trying to trade some more pieces to get something. But I don't see physically how if Johnny Hockey says he wants to come, then you try to move.
He really wants to play on the cheap then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if he says he wants to come, I think you try to move mountains, but I don't know how you're going to move boulders in that sense. And I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening.
I wanted to address that situation because, yes, would I love to see Johnny Gaudreau suit up for the orange and black? Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Well, what? Come on. I mean, hello, that would be a dream come true, but that's just it. It is a dream. There is no way that unless they move mountains of salary, are they even going to be able to remotely consider Johnny Hockey? And then now you've moved all this salary so you can bring in this one guy.
Yeah.
And you still need a backup goaltender. You still need, you know,
a lot.
You know what I mean?
And that's what you got to really pay attention to. If you're Chuck Fletcher, yes, it would be nice to grab a flashy name off the board, but what is that going to do this season?
Exactly.
He scored a lot of points last year, but he played with some darn good players, and Sean Couturier's been injured. Joel Farabee's out. You know, who's he going to play with? Kevin Hayes has been injured a lot lately. TK is not the same player he once was. JVR is not the same player he once was. He's going to be out on the ice by himself in a sense. So
either that with all the kids,
right?
You know. So, well, listen, Lance, we went a little longer than we thought we were going to try to go on this one, but that's okay. Mm-hmm. Listen, why don't you tell the folks where we can find you and where we can follow you?
Sure. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at LNGBASSIST, the number's 39. And I post everything I do on all the Flyers fan pages on Facebook and, you know, on my Twitter and, you know, everywhere else you can think of. So, you know, thank you guys.
Sure, man.
Thank you guys for watching the show. As always, tell a friend, like and subscribe. All that good happy stuff.
Sure, man. So we have a little bit of announcement coming up here real soon. We are going to probably be setting up our website so that we'll be able to post articles and hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So I just wanted to clue you guys in on that. So be looking for that in the very, very, very near future, being able to have articles on the website. Speaking of the website, you can go there and check us out, www.steelflyers.com/links/The Hockey Writers Inc., where you can find all of our shows and all of our great stuff. You can find me on Twitter at SteelFlyers52. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll catch you all on the next episode of The Hockey Writers Inc.
Thanks, guys.